Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. He's Hacker.
I like a good serial killer documentary. He hasn't taken the pounding that wide receivers take.
It's just a pound job, and guys are tired towards that for a minute.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
I would be lying to you if I said I had not heard things. They're like a bad rash. You hear a lot of things. Some are true, some aren't.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Wednesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Casey Dobson in for Dylan Denmark. I'm the Hacker, Ryan Green. Middle portion of the week, and 1 week from today, we will have pen meeting paper on brand new contracts all over the National Football League. That's right, the new league calendar is 1 week from today, Wednesday, March 13th. Of course, you can agree to terms with teams beginning Monday and Tuesday, and you can officially sign your contract next Wednesday. So I would venture to guess by next Wednesday, certainly, by this time next week, we will have clarity on Calvin Ridley. We will have clarity on Ezra Cleveland. And we will have clarity on probably, to my guess, 3 or 4 new additions that I believe Jacksonville is going to make in the first couple of days of free agency. I don't know if they're going to make a big splash. I would tend to doubt it. But I bet they're going to bring in some names that you know. Maybe some veteran guys, some guys where it didn't work out with other teams. But I certainly expect Jacksonville to be much more active than they were a year ago, and that would not be hard, guys, because they didn't do anything last year in free agency. They signed Michael Dogby and Henry Mondu and Dearness Johnson, all due respect to him. They did not have a free agent frenzy last year, so I think it will certainly be more active beginning next week. With that as a backdrop, Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union will join me in less than 15 minutes. We'll certainly talk about the franchise tag to Josh Allen. We'll talk about what that means for the future of Calvin Ridley here in Jacksonville. Obviously, the cuts of Rayshon Jenkins, Foley Fatukasi, and Darius Williams. And we'll kind of give a blueprint on what we think the Jaguars are going to do beginning on Monday with NFL free agency. So Demetrius Harvey of the Times-Union, he is less than 15 minutes away. Also, amidst all this free agent talk, spring football is underway in Coral Gables. Next week it begins in Tallahassee, and tomorrow it begins in Gainesville for the University of Florida as Billy Napier and the Gators, year 3 for the spring for Billy Napier. We'll have Will Miles, readandreaction.com. He's also a part of the Gators Breakdown podcast to preview Florida spring ball. That comes up towards the top of the 9 o'clock hour. So we're jam-packed. We're glad you're with us on a Wednesday evening. Every night here on Hacker After Dark, we do give you a big deal of the night. And Casey Dobson, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal? What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
We have spent so much time talking about Josh Allen and talking about Calvin Ridley. And with good reason. Those are the 2 highest profile, most important guys that were scheduled to hit free agency. Josh Allen, obviously, will remain here in Jacksonville now with the franchise tag. Calvin Ridley, if I were a betting man, will not remain here in Jacksonville as he is set to hit the free agent market next Monday. There are a lot of other in-house guys the Jaguars have to make decisions on. And quite frankly, there are a couple of guys that are very, very long-tenured Jacksonville Jaguars that may have played their final game here in Jacksonville. Let's go through them one by one. Ezra Cleveland is probably the 3rd most important free agent behind Allen and behind Ridley. You traded for Ezra Cleveland at the deadline last year. You gave up a 6th-round pick to the Minnesota Vikings. Ezra Cleveland came in, did some nice things, in fact started one game against Cleveland at left tackle because Cam Robinson was injured. But he played left guard primarily down the stretch. I don't think he was an all-pro worthy player, but I don't think he was terrible either. Is Ezra Cleveland worth bringing back? A lot of offensive guards are going to hit the market. It's not the sexiest position. It's not the most glamorous position, but it's a position with a lot of depth next Monday. There's a lot of big interior offensive linemen that are available. Ezra Cleveland is one of them. Ezra Cleveland's, 27 years old? He's got well over 50 starts in the National Football League. A lot of experience. Did Jacksonville see enough out of him to bring him back? Jamal Agnew is a free agent. If I were a betting man, I'd say Agnew is probably done as a Jaguar. Thank you, Jamal Agnew, for 3 years. Some great memories. The 109-yard return against Arizona when your first year here was something that I'll never forget. Jaguar fans will never forget. But didn't you draft Parker Washington last year to kind of be the replacement for Jamal Agnew? A younger, cheaper version. Not as good, certainly, yet. But if you re-sign Jamal Agnew, what was the point of drafting Parker Washington? So if I had to bet, I'd say Jamal Agnew is probably not returning to Jacksonville. DeJuan Smoot had an Achilles injury at the end of 2022. Jaguars signed him to a 1-year deal. He will become a free agent on Monday. One of the longest tenured Jacksonville Jaguars. In fact, I believe, other than Tyler Shatley and other than Cam Robinson, he may be the longest tenured Jacksonville Jaguar. DeJuan Smoot's been here for a long time. I don't know if he's coming back. I don't think he was necessarily 100% the entire year last year. He got you 1 sack. I mean, maybe you bring him back on another 1-year veteran minimum or just above that. I don't know if he would get more money on the open market. To me, that's probably a 50-50 one with DeJuan Smoot. Trey Herndon. He's another guy that's been here a long time. How many times have we said Trey Herndon is probably not returning, and how many times has Trey Herndon returned? Although you get the feeling this time that this probably is it for him. He's going to be a free agent. He's not getting any younger. You could probably upgrade the nickel spot there. You're going to need to find another starter now that Darius Williams is cut anyway. So secondary is going to be a big part to me of what Jacksonville does, not only in free agency but also in the draft. So I do wonder if we've seen the last of Trey Herndon. To me, you've absolutely seen the last of K'Lavon Chaisson. No offense to K'Lavon Chaisson. He didn't ask to be picking round 1. That was Dave Caldwell and his infinite wisdom that did that, just blowing that draft. What a awful, awful draft 2020 was in round 1. You had 2 picks in the top 20, and Dave Caldwell provided you with C.J. Henderson and K'Lavon Chaisson. That is general manager malpractice, is what that is. That is awful. And just goes to show you again, say what you will about Trent Baalke, and you can dislike Trent Baalke all you want and wear your clown suits and all this stuff. Trent Baalke is head and shoulders better as a general manager than Dave Caldwell was here in Jacksonville. And miraculously, Caldwell got a couple of contract extensions, which I still can't believe. But K'Lavon Chaisson probably won't be missed here in Jacksonville. We wish him well, but odds are he's not coming back. Tyler Shatley, the longest tenured Jaguar, borderline Mr. Jaguar. He's been here for, a decade? Will they bring him back on a veteran minimum deal? Maybe. Not to start, obviously, but to be depth, I wouldn't mind that. And at this point in his career, who knows how much of a market Tyler Shatley will have. Probably doesn't want to move around at this point in his career. Maybe he'll take a hometown discount. But think about those 3 in particular, right? Trey Herndon, DeJuan Smoot, Tyler Shatley. And for that matter, I guess you could even throw Caleb Chase on in there. He's been here 4 years. That's going to be kind of a changing of the guard, right? The old guard. Some of the longest tenured guys are going to be gone. Other than Cam Robinson, those are the longest tenured Jaguars. Shatley, Herndon, Smoot, Chaseon's in that conversation. And those guys will be out the door, most of them, next week. One that we really haven't talked about, and I do wonder about the future of Brandon McManus. The kicker the Jaguars brought in from Denver was unbelievably good beginning of the year to the middle portion of the year. Man, he struggled towards the end to the point where Doug Peterson in press conferences towards the end of the year didn't necessarily call him out, but he kind of did. So we need to make kicks. You got to make kicks. And McManus did not do a good job of that towards the end of the year. So I do wonder if the Jaguars are in the market for a kicker. They brought Riley Patterson back, but do you feel comfortable there, or do you think you need to add somebody in free agency? You know, I've just talked about guys that are leaving, and I've talked about it for the last 11 minutes. And with all due respect to a lot of these guys, they're depth pieces, right? They're special teams pieces. You're not really losing all that much from a starting point of view. You did that when you cut Foley Fatukasi, Darius Williams, and Rayshawn Jenkins. The term rebuild does not apply here in Jacksonville. This is not a rebuild to me. It's a retooling, right? It's a reshaping. There's no question about that. You're going to have to add minimum 3 new starters on defense. Anytime you do that, it's something, right? Retooling, reshaping, however you want to phrase it. But it goes to show you how quickly the National Football League world goes. 365 days ago, the Jaguars were one of the hottest teams in the NFL, coming off a division run in the AFC playoffs. Everybody thought the AFC South was going to be theirs for a long time. And now here we are, 12 months later, after one of the greatest collapses in franchise history, and the Jaguars have gaping holes on this team. They got a hole at wide receiver if Ridley leaves. They got holes on the defensive line interiorly. They got big holes at secondary, particularly at cornerback. I believe they have holes along the offensive line. It is not built. It is far from it. And whether you like Trent Baalke, whether you don't like Trent Baalke, the fact of the matter is you got to put your trust in Trent Baalke because he has a lot of work to do. And it begins on Monday when free agency begins, and it goes up until the draft and after that. For about a 2.5-month window here between free agency to the draft and the post-draft free agency, you're going to have to bring in, to me, 10, 15 guys that are going to have to make the 53-man roster, which is an exact opposite from where you were last year. And it goes to show you your philosophy last year did not work. 2022, you simply chose to run it back in 2023. That did not work. And that is why now, again, it's not a rebuild, but it is absolutely a retooling of what was thought to be a Super Bowl caliber roster just on Thanksgiving this past year. 641-1010 on the phone line and on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Coming up next, Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union. Let's talk Josh Allen. Let's talk Calvin Ridley. Let's talk about the releases on defense, and let's look ahead to next week. Guys they need to call, guys they should call, and what are the chances of Calvin Ridley returning to Jacksonville after the market opens on Monday? We're going to talk about all of it. Demetrius Harvey of the Times-Union, next on a Wednesday night edition of Hacker After Dark.
Quenching your thirst for midday sports talk.
I hear we're getting a new cappuccino machine.
XL Prime Time.
Something hot.
Josie, Matt Hayes, Mia O'Brien, and Leon Searcy. Weekdays from noon to 3 on 1010 XL.
Hacker here with a big announcement. Look, I've started Awaken 180 weight loss. That's right. Yours truly is finally making the 180 I've needed to do for many years now. The combination of turning 40 and wanting to keep up with Little Hack was all the motivation I needed. What else is motivating to me? In just 1 week, I've dropped 19 pounds. My first week on Awaken 180 weight loss, I dropped 19 pounds. Now, these results aren't necessarily the norm, but when you have the amount of weight that I needed to drop, the results came quick. I got more energy, and I feel awesome. Mike and Matt were right. Awaken 180 is simple. I'm eating to lose weight. I'm having fun in the process. Whether you've tried losing weight 20 times or this is your first time, with Awaken 180, it will be your last time. Trust me. Go to awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com or call 844-346-1800. That's 844-346-1800 and do what I did and get on Awaken 180.
Electricians, innovators, and tech enthusiasts, listen up. Miller Electric is shaping the future, and we want you to be a part of it. From healthcare and data centers, corporate offices, aviation, and industrial facilities, Miller Electric is powering the most exciting projects in Jacksonville and beyond. We offer not just a job, but a thrilling career with great pay and incredible benefits. Visit us at millercareers.com to apply. Miller Electric, where your skills meet our vision, and equal opportunity employer.
To thank you for 40 unforgettable years, Dell Technologies is celebrating with anniversary savings on their most popular tech. For a limited time only, save on select next-gen PCs like the XPS 13 Plus, powered by Intel Core processors, and more. Plus, curate your dream setup with great deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to leading-edge technology and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
Here's your 1010XL community calendar of local events and nonprofit groups helping people here at home.
If you'd like to work for the Jumbo Shrimp this season, bring your resume to 1-to-1 Financial Ballpark, Saturday, March 16th from 10 to 1. Learn more at jackshrimp.com.
The Wounded Warrior Project provides what medicine and technology can't: community, counseling, and a second chance. Find ways to help at woundedwarriorproject.org.
If you'd like to play in the Northeast Florida Cornhole Tournament at Wingate Park May 18th,
register at tsunami10u@mail.com.
It benefits Tsunami Fast Pitch Softball.
If you're between ages 16 and 24, you can learn a career in construction, electrical, plumbing, or masonry with free training from the AMI Kids Florida Registered Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Call 576-7337.
There's a critical need for all blood types. Please consider donating at a local blood donation center.
You can find out how to share your community event at 1010XL.com.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. Get ahead of the changing season with Fenwick Home Services by scheduling your AC system tune-up now. Their experts will perform a multi-point cleaning and inspection that will breathe new life into your system and help prevent breakdowns. Whether you need routine maintenance, repairs, or are ready for a system upgrade, Fenwick has you covered with 24/7 availability. Book your visit online at fenwickhomeservices.com/1010XL. fenwickhomeservices.com/1010XL.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On March 6, 1954, the first ACC men's basketball tournament took place. NC State beats Wake Forest 82-80 in overtime.
Transmission troubles? I'm Robin Sidbury, owner of Action Transmission Specialist on Merrill Road. So come in and see how we can help solve your transmission troubles. We service all makes and models. Remember, get traction. Call Action at 744-0755.
If golf is your thing, you'll want to check out the 2024 Hills Pass at Hidden Hills Golf Club. Unlimited golf, including golf car and preferred tee times for just one low price. Visit us at hiddenhillsgc.com to purchase your Hills Pass today.
Find the Celt in you. March 9 and 10 at the St. Augustine Celtic Music and Heritage Festival with 10 top Celtic bands, Highland Games, the original St. Patrick Parade and much more. CelticStAugustine.com.
When is the best time to buy a Yamaha Wave Runner? Right now. Make a splash this summer on a new Wave Runner from Ride Now Power Sports. No matter how you like to ride, Ride Now Power Sports has the model to fit your style. And for a limited time, receive a 5-year extended warranty on select new Yamaha Wave Runner purchases. Maximum fun, now with maximum protection. Only at Ride Now Power Sports in Jacksonville, 6407 Landing Boulevard, or online at ridenowjacksonville.com.
It's Kubota Orange Days, your golden chance to score a deal that will make your neighbors green with envy. Shop the year's best selection of Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and utility vehicles, including the #1 selling compact tractor in the USA. And get the year's best deals, like 0% APR for 84 months, or up to $3,300 off L3302 tractors. Coastal Equipment on New Kings Road and in McClenny.
Coastal Equipment.
Picken here. You know at Zero Res, they love rugs. Fine oil rugs need to be cleaned with the right equipment and careful training. My guy at Zero Res, Gerard, is a certified master rug cleaner and has been cleaning rugs for more than 5 years. Don't trust your fine rugs to anyone. Call Zero Res right now. They are offering a BOGO on rug cleaning. Have Zero Res clean one rug, get a second rug for free. What a great time to get your rugs cleaned. Zero Res, man. Spell it forward, spell it backwards. Zero Res. It's the right way to clean.
Zero Res.
For the greenest, luscious lawn on the block, choose the local legends, Roundtree Sod. Don't just settle for ordinary. Let Roundtree Sod deliver you a picture-perfect lawn. To get a free estimate, call 7414-SOD. 7414-SOD.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. Boy, the NFL offseason is moving right along. Franchise tags have been handed out, and all eyes now are on NFL free agency, which essentially begins next Monday. With all that being said, let me welcome in Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union. He does a terrific job covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. Demetrius, how we doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Demetrius, we're good, man. Thank you for the time. It's certainly a busy time for you. All right, earlier this week we saw a lot. Let's kind of take it in slices. The biggest slice is the franchise tag that goes to Josh Allen. Demetrius, your thoughts on the tag being applied, which means they were not able to reach a long-term deal by the deadline?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think if we've all been listening and talking, we kind of expected it to happen. You know, by the time the Jaguars started negotiating with Josh Allen, his camp, it had already been pretty much February. So, you know, they only had like a month and change to work with as far as negotiating. And you know, when you're a free agent like Josh or an impending free agent like Josh Allen was slated to be, you might as well sort of just take that all the way up to the deadline and sort of take your time with it, because you can get more money the further down you go. I mean, Evan Ingram kind of, you know, showed that last year. I think players all around the league show that every year. You know, the longer it kind of drags on, the more money they usually end up getting by the end of it. So, yeah, it was no surprise at all that, you know, the Jaguars had to tag Josh Allen. Clearly, the team and his camp couldn't come to an agreement.
Yeah, and look, Trent Baalke released a statement saying that they basically ran out of time. Well, I mean, when you hold a press conference 4 weeks after the season ended and you say you haven't even begun negotiations with him yet, I'm not sure, Demetrius, if that was the best phrasing to put into that statement.
No, it wasn't, and it got the reaction that would be expected for that type of statement. I think that it's a situation where the Jaguars aren't going to be really given much grace, because Trent Baalke's philosophy has always been to not negotiate in season. I know that there could have been negotiations before the season, whether or not, you know, Josh's camp sort of said, you know, let's bet on ourselves or what have you, you know, that remains to be seen. So, you know, basically they had time. They just didn't use it wisely necessarily. And sort of the situation that they're in is exactly the same situation they were in last year, you know, with Jawan and with that. Evan Ingram, except for this year, it's Calvin Ridley and Josh Allen. So, they sort of have their own blueprint on how they want to go about business, and it's playing out exactly how it would be expected.
In fairness to Trent Baalke, I will say this. There were a lot of people here locally that had trepidation about giving Josh Allen big money last offseason coming off 7 sacks. But Trent Baalke gets paid millions of dollars to make those decisions. And guys like you and me do not get paid millions of dollars to make those decisions. So I don't have much leeway for him. How sticky is this going to get between the team and Josh Allen, Demetrius? I mean, is this something that you think will get worked out, sooner rather than later, or could we be talking about this for a while?
I think generally it'll be fine. Whether or not that timetable aligns more with Evan Ingram or if it's going to be happening a lot sooner, I mean, that remains to be seen. You would think that if it was that close, it would have been done before the deadline, because then at that point you're sort of just ironing out the details. You're going to take this money this year, blah blah blah, more than here's how much we're willing to go. So right now it seems like they're far enough away from each other that that contract can't come together at a moment's notice. So it's going to take some time, but I don't think that this is going to be a situation that gets dicey or it gets awkward necessarily. I think that the Jaguars will pay Josh Allen X amount. Now, are they willing to make him the highest paid, and is he even asking for that? That remains to be seen. And I think that that if that would be the case, then of course it's going to take a lot longer. Maybe would never happen as we see it right now.
Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union. The domino effect there. They franchise Allen. That means Calvin Ridley is set to hit the market on Monday. I think it was you that tweeted this out yesterday, and it was a great point. The fact that Ridley's never been a free agent, right? He's going to be 29 years old. This will be his first time as a free agent. He's clearly wide receiver 1 on the market. I mean, he's gone, right? The Jaguars basically yesterday when franchising Allen, essentially that means Calvin Ridley's not going to be here next year.
I wouldn't necessarily go that far. But yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's still at that 50-50 point that I've always suggested. I feel like, even with Josh Allen being tagged, and that was always my expectation. I figured that Calvin Ridley would hit free agency. But you're right. Yeah, like I said the other day, this is the first time he's ever going to be hitting free agency, and maybe the last time potentially to get a big money deal. Calvin entered the league pretty late in terms of his age. I think he was around 23. I remember people used to make jokes about it. And now he's 29 years old, coming off his first deal because it lasted 6 years since he was suspended for that one. So yeah, he's going to be wanting his big money deal. He's going to be wanting a contract that aligns with what a lot of other top tier wideouts get. He had 1,000 yards last year, 8 touchdowns, over 70 catches. I mean, it's all lining up for him to get a pretty significant pay bump from some team, because he's going to be the top wideout on the market. You don't have a Michael Pittman, you don't have a Mike Evans, you don't have anybody else out there necessarily that's going to be commanding, in my opinion, that type of money. So yeah, it's going to be tough for the Jaguars to retain him, but I do still feel strongly that they want to. And I do feel strongly that he would like to be back. But yeah, money is going to factor in, since this is the first time, maybe the last, that he's going to be able to cash in.
Fascinating thing about Calvin Ridley is 2.5 months ago, the fans were upset with him, right? He's underachieving. He doesn't know the playbook. He doesn't know what he's doing out there. He's running the wrong routes. Why did we spend a draft pick on this guy? I mean, we heard it all. There hasn't been a game played in 2 months, and now people are very upset that he maybe will not be back. I mean, that's odd that the narrative has changed, even though no games have been played.
Absolutely, it is. But it's not necessarily something that should be surprising, right? I mean, it's something where, the further away you get from the season, the different opinions that form. Nothing has changed at all from what the Jaguars put on the field. Everybody who played there last year is the same thing. It's similar to the Cam Robinson deal. A lot of people either want to get rid of Cam Robinson or they want to keep him, but it doesn't really matter necessarily what they last saw. It's just a matter of how they feel about him as a player in general. And I think that's the same thing that's happening with Calvin. Most people understand that last year, yeah, it was frustrating. But, at the end of the day, it's still Calvin Ridley, and the excitement that you had last year before the season should still remain, because the things that you saw him do in training camp and the things that everybody got excited about, he did do during the season. It just wasn't as consistent as you would like. So I think that some fans, obviously are sort of in that in that peg of, hey, I liked Calvin Ridley before, so I like him now, even though I was pretty critical of him, just a couple months ago. But there are definitely some fans who have sort of morphed their brains to whatever is antithesis of what the Jaguars are doing at that current time. That is their, that's what they're going to be pulling for. So if they had paid Calvin Ridley $20 million a year, I'm sure there would be a lot of people upset at the same time. If they don't pay him at all, there's going to be a ton of people upset. So you can't really win.
Couple of more for Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union. Demetrius, 3 defensive starters have been shown the door in the last 2 days. Foley, Fatukasi, let's quickly start there. That was a miss by Trent Baalke in free agency. Now, injuries played a role in that a little bit, but clearly when they brought Fatukasi in a couple of years ago, they probably expected to get more.
Yeah, and actually I credit Trent and their staff for doing this, just because this is a point in the rebuild where you can admit mistakes. It's okay to say, yeah, we missed on that one. And I think that they're finally doing that. Foley Fatukasi, you had to get rid of him. He just wasn't a player that would even fit in what they want to do. He wasn't somebody who produced. It just made sense to get rid of him. It wasn't like he was going to be commanding a $10 million cap hit this year, or even if he was, you're not going to save the $10 million is my point. You only save 3.5. So it's really a matter of, hey, we want to move on from this player and maybe usher in a new guy. So I wasn't too surprised at that cut. I think that we all sort of talked about it before. But yeah, it's the first time I think that they've really admitted, hey, we made a mistake here, and they kind of moved on.
To Rayshawn Jenkins, who was shown the door earlier this week as well. Talk about a guy that'll live in Jaguar history. You could argue he's responsible for 2 of the greatest Jaguar defensive plays ever, right? The pick 6 interception to beat Dallas and the strip sack of Josh Dobbs to win the AFC South. So Rayshawn Jenkins, very nice moments here in Jacksonville, but it was probably time, because towards the end of last year, Demetrius, it looked like Jenkins wasn't playing very well. I'll just put it like that.
Yeah, and it's fine to say, in my opinion, it's fine to say it did look like he mailed in a little bit. I mean, during that final game of the season, that Derrick Henry run, you can kind of see, he's not giving as much, or at least looks like he's not running as hard as other players could have, or as he could have. So it's, to me, it's fine to sort of say it like that. Tell it like it is. And Rayshawn obviously has had a great impact on this team. He was very highly coveted. Last year, in 2022, I mean, he was a significant asset to their team. I thought that he was one of their best players on defense. I thought that he deserved whatever pay raise or whatever they wanted to do in terms of the contract restructure. It all made sense to me. But everything kind of caught up. He has limitations. His size is not big. He's not one of the most athletic guys. He's not the fastest guy. He's just usually a very hard worker, a guy who can tackle. He can hit pretty hard. And that's what you expected out of him. But yeah, with the Jaguars drafting Antonio Johnson last year, the writing was sort of on the wall, in my opinion, for Rayshawn. Antonio was brought in basically to fill his role. And so, you kind of move on and you get to the point of the contract where you kind of figured that you're going to move on. And that's sort of what happened, I think. Rayshawn was less of a mistake than Foley, but he was a mistake nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree. Rayshawn Jenkins, probably a C, B-, C+. Foley would not get that grade. Darius Williams is the final one, at least as of the time you and I are talking, that got cut. Maybe a little bit of a surprise, but I get it. I mean, he's going to be 31 later this month. I don't think I'm breaking any news here that his best football is probably in the rearview mirror, although he did have a good 2023, but based on people you talk to, he really wasn't going to fit into what Ryan Nielsen wants to do on defense.
Yeah, he's not big. I mean, he's not a big corner. Usually when you're playing press, even if you're not in man, you want to have that size, that length to be able to actually press the receiver, and it seemed like this year, every time, it seemed like whenever the Jaguars corners played zone, when they played with their face, with their eyes at the quarterback, they seem to play better. I think that that's sort of what Darius was good at, and so now you're asking him to basically switch up what he's good at. So it makes sense. You saved around $10.5 million, I believe it was. against the salary cap, just to cut him. And, he was the biggest cap savings. There's not much dead money, around with him. So yeah, I thought that one made sense. Yeah, it's a little surprising. But before the season ended, I remember looking at it, and I think that he was just the one that stood out. The only reason why, to me, it didn't feel like they might do it was because no one else is on the roster. So, they clearly want to make that hole, and they're going to have to fill it either in free agency or the draft, or probably both.
Final moments, Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union. All right, Fatukasi gone, Jenkins gone, Williams gone. Demetrius, is that it, or could there be more prior to Monday?
It's tough to say. I think that Brandon Sheriff is a guy that we've all kind of circled, but the further we get away from it, and the further we get away from yesterday, I do feel like he might stay. I never felt like Foye Oluwakin would be cut, and obviously, I asked about Cam Robinson at the Combine, and it seemed like they are fully on board with him coming back. So to me, the only other option would be Brandon Sheriff. The potential of Zay Jones, to me, I don't think you can do that unless you know what's going to happen with Calvin Ridley. So I feel like they're done for now, but you never know.
All right, Monday, legal tampering. They can negotiate. They can agree to terms. A week from today, Wednesday, they can sign on the dotted line. Jaguar thoughts going into free agency. If it were you, who do you think the first couple of calls are to?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. It depends on how much you're willing to spend, because my first call would be to Christian Wilkins. But, I do think that they're going to go after guys like Jeff Okudah. I mean, obviously their own guys like Ezra Cleveland. I could see, just I wouldn't necessarily put them in the camp of going after a Chris Jones, even though he's probably not available, or even a Christian Wilkins. I just couldn't see it necessarily, because I do think that they feel like they have to go ahead and pay some of their own players. Tyson Campbell, they might have to pay, and Andre Sisco, obviously Trevor Lawrence. There's many players that they're going to have to pay, and it really depends on what they do with Calvin Ridley. So my first call would be to Calvin Ridley, Christian Wilkins, guys like that, Jeff Okudah, Ezra Cleveland, other offensive linemen, the offensive lineman from the Patriots, I'm blanking on his name. But yeah, those are the type of players that I would go after, and I do think that they're going to be a little active in free agency this year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that as we wrap up. I mean, last year they did nothing. 2 years ago it was a frenzy. Is it somewhere in the middle this year? I mean, could they sign, 3, 4, 5 guys by this time next week?
I think so. And last year there was nothing. I mean, they signed Michael Dogby, they signed Henry Mondeau, they signed Dearness Johnson. I remember talking with Trent Baalke about Michael Dogby and Henry Mondeau, and the reaction was basically like, yeah, they're just camp bodies. I mean, that was the feeling I got, and guess what? That's what they were. But I think that this year they're going to be more aggressive. They're definitely going to bring in some sort of veteran center to replace Tyler Shatley, to push Luke Fortner. So, they're definitely going to be more active than they were last year.
All right, Demetrius, we won't hold you to it, but right now it's Wednesday, a week from today. Calvin Ridley, Ezra Cleveland, are they Jacksonville Jaguars?
I'll say yes to Ezra Cleveland, and I genuinely do not know with Calvin Ridley. If you had to hold me to it right now, I would say no, just because the odds are stacked up against them. They have other teams that are going to be negotiating. There's going to be more desperate teams. So I could see them, losing out on the bidding war for Calvin Ridley.
Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union. Demetrius, tell everybody what the Times-Union has coming up in the coming days leading up to free agency.
Yeah, we have a ton. I mean, we have everything you would want to know about free agency. We have everything you want to know about what happened at the NFL Combine. I did a ton of work last week at the Combine, so if you guys want to go ahead and check it out on Jacksonville.com, you can see all that work. I talked to multiple players, a lot of these guys, and just keep in mind there's a reason why I talk to the players that I do, and that's all I'll say.
Interesting. Demetrius, I know you're busy, man. We certainly appreciate it. Let's do it again post-free agency. We'll see at that point where the dust has settled. Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate it.
There you go, Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union here with us on Hacker After Dark. Interesting, he said his first call would be to Christian Wilkins. I would love that. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see the Jaguars making a splash like that. I think Demetrius is right. Jeff Okudah, you might remember that name. He was the number 3 overall pick in the 2020 draft. And it did not work out for him in Detroit. Where did he play last year? He played in Atlanta under Ryan Nielsen as the defensive coordinator up there. Could Jeff Okudah come here? I've also heard the name Sheldon Rankins, a big defensive tackle that has, I believe, some history with Ryan Nielsen. Could that be a potential fit in Jacksonville to replace Foley Fatukasi, who you just cut? I think those are going to be the type of guys. Odds are you've probably heard of Sheldon Rankins. Odds are you've probably heard of Jeff Okudah. Now, are they going to make you run out there and buy their jerseys and grab season tickets because of it? No, but that's the kind of guy I think they're going to sign. Not the splash, but not the, for lack of better terminology, no name either. It's going to be somewhere in the middle, and I think they're going to bring in probably 3 or 4 of those guys relatively early on in free agency next week. More on the Jaguars coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. I do want to shift gears a little bit for the here and now. So much time on the Jags. We just dedicated 40 minutes to them. So much time on free agency. We got spring football starting all over the college gridiron, including tomorrow down in Gainesville. We're going to talk to Will Miles of readandreaction.com in about 25 minutes. Before we get there, let's talk a little Billy Napier and Gators spring ball. That's next. Hacker After Dark on a Wednesday night in Jacksonville, Florida. And we're glad you're with us here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
The world will be watching Ponte Vedra.
And the Scheffler victory train just keeps on rolling.
Catch live Southeast Orthopedic Specialist leaderboard updates from the players.
Brought to you by Performance Painting, Kanaya Water, Jacksonville, and First Coast Honda dealers.
On 1010XL.
Hacker here, and I have a huge announcement. I've started Awaken 180 weight loss. That's right, yours truly is finally making the 180 I've needed to do for many years now. The combination of turning 40 and wanting to keep up with my 4-year-old son was a ton of motivation. What's more motivating? In just 1 week, I dropped 19 pounds. You heard me right, 19 pounds in just 1 week. Now, I do have to say, these results aren't the norm, but when you have the amount of weight I needed to drop, the results came quick. In just 1 week, I have more energy, and I feel great. Mike and Matt were right. Awaken 180 is simple. I'm eating to lose weight and having fun in the process. Whether you've tried to lose weight 20 times, or if this is your first time, with Awaken 180, it will be the last time. Fast. I mean fast results, and then you receive free support for life. Make the call. 844-346-1800. That's 844-346-1800, or online at awaken180weightloss.com.
Wintertime at the Blue Crab Crab House. You know what that means. Time for oysters. Buy them by the tray, broiled, half shell with Romano cheese, wine topping, or fried. And of course, each and every Wednesday, $1 oysters at the Blue Crab Crab House. Serving Northeast Florida since 1996. Make reservations by calling 260-CRAB. Jacksonville's best, the Blue Crab Crab House, off of San Jose on Jewington Creek Road.
Bueller Air Conditioning presents
Are You Cool?
Today's lucky contestant, a coffee filter repairman from Jacksonville Beach. Me, Dave Carvelis.
Great to be here, Pat.
No time to chit-chat, Dave. Here's your question. Your AC has been acting up. Do you A, ignore it and hope it gets better on its own? 2, take off all your clothes when you watch TV and hope that does the trick? Or C, call Bueller Air Conditioning?
Oh, jeez. I do like to sit around with no pants on.
5 seconds, Dave.
I'll say C. Call Bueller.
That's right, Dave. A quick call to Bueller will have our expert AC technicians at your door, usually the same day, to make sure that
you are cool.
Can I still watch the game with no pants on?
It's America, Dave. Knock yourself out.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Dave Binion here with my son Ammon, who is the air duct cleaning manager at Zero Res. So Ammon, you may notice a little rattle in my voice and some puffiness in my eyes. That's because allergy season is coming on. Can Zero Res help?
Yes, your health has a lot to do with the air you breathe. A clean and healthy home begins with clean air. At Zero Res, we can help clean the air in your home by cleaning your air ducts, cleaning the coils in your HVAC units, and fogging the system with a powerful antimicrobial that helps kill and control the growth of microorganisms in your air. We also have options for maintaining your clean air with our excellent inline air purifier and UV lights that will help keep your system clean and healthy. At Zero Res, we are more than just air duct cleaners. We're a clean air specialist.
Have Zero Res air duct specialists out, and right now we'll give you $50 off your air duct cleaning, and while we're at it, we'll give you $50 off your dryer vent cleaning. Zero Res.
Spelled forward or backwards, it's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res.
Like to learn how to fly an airplane? Well, you're not alone. High Flying Jacko here, inviting you to listen Sunday morning. We'll start your aviation career with a 60-minute ride on the airwaves of 1010XL. The High Flying Show, Sunday at 9 on 1010XL.
Jeff Prosser here. Need that garage floor redone? Pool deck? Patio? Well, I did my homework and found out there's only one company offering a lifetime warranty, Jack's Concrete Coating. How do they do it? They're the certified Pintech dealer for North Florida, so they are the only company offering pure polyurea. Trust me, I can speak firsthand to their work, and it is awesome. Go to jacksconcretecoatings.com or call 904-862-2000.
The most common form of treatment for the arthritic joints is normally cortisone injections and gel shots and over-the-counter medications. And most patients have tried all of that and are still in pain.
Every day, Dr. Aaron Wolkoff, a QC Kinetics medical director, meets patients who have exhausted every method to get relief. They've been told surgery is their only option.
They want to stay away from that path, and they come to us almost as a last hope. So we're using our own body's properties to help manage pain, to help slow arthritis down, keep the patients active with no downtime, and get them back to what they enjoy doing. I mean, I love what I do.
QC Kinetics regenerative treatments from our board-certified providers help heal and restore aching joints. No surgery, harmful drugs, or downtime. Call for your free consultation today.
QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. 904-274-5522.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
You probably heard my Awaken 180 commercial just then. I had a weigh-in earlier this week, yesterday. 26 pounds in 2 weeks. 26 pounds in 2 weeks. I heard Matt and Mike talking about Awaken 180, and I wanted to see what it was all about, and good grief, man. It is awesome. I'll tell you more about it, but you lose 26 pounds in 2 weeks. That tells you two things. Number one, the program works, and number two, man, you had a lot of weight to lose, and I certainly did, and I certainly have a lot more to lose, but 26 pounds is certainly a very good start, no question about that. Another very good start is needed for the Florida Gators this spring. Billy Napier coming into year number 3. By the way, this was big breaking news out of Gainesville earlier today. DJ Lagway will wear number 2 at the University of Florida. Dobson, are you a jersey number guy, either in college or the pros? Is that something you know a lot about? Can rattle them off?
I got Tim Tebow's, baby. Yeah.
You know,
but no, I really don't.
Frangie and me over the years, we'll just start randomly naming Gator players from like 1995, and we'll just keep going back and forth, jersey number after jersey number after jersey number.
I heard him a couple of weeks back, like he was talking about our passcode to get in here to the building, and he was saying that the numbers are associated with
jersey numbers. That's exactly how I do it. Yeah.
No,
don't
got it.
That's great minds think alike, and obviously Frank and I do as well, because that's exactly the way I do it. All right, Gator football, spring football. Boy, is there a coach in America that is on as hot a seat right now as Billy Napier? I would tend to doubt it. I would. I think Billy Napier is on the hottest seat in America, which is a shame after only 2 years on the job. But when you go 11-14 at the University of Florida, that's flat out unacceptable. Now, is all of that his fault? You could argue probably not all of it. I don't think he inherited a very good roster. I think they had some issues with NIL early on. But the further we get away from it and the longer he's been there, again, entering year 3, people don't want to hear excuses. People want to see results on the field. And the reality of the situation, and I like Billy Napier, but the reality of the situation is he's 11-14 in 25 games at the University of Florida. That's not going to cut it. So you have the combination of Billy Napier being on the hot seat with the hardest schedule I've ever seen for a Gator football team. And I mean that. I was born in 1983, so I'm one of those people that was kind of spoiled. I don't really remember anything before Spurrier. I got a vague memory of some artificial turf in 1989 with, who was that, Donald Douglas at quarterback and Arden Krzyzewski at kicker and Brad Culpepper in 1989. But that's in the very, very far back of my memory. I primarily remember 1990 and onward. And to me, and going back 35 years of Gator football, I can't ever remember a schedule, at least on paper, that's as daunting as this. ESPN.com, a couple of weeks ago, they're way too early, preseason top 25. 9 of Florida's 12 opponents were on that thing. Again, you want an interesting exercise, look at their schedule. And you find me 3 wins that you think are absolute no-brainers. Absolute no-brainers. You can't do it. Can Florida beat Miami? Yeah, but it's not a no-brainer. Can Florida beat Texas A&M? Yeah, but it's certainly not a no-brainer. You could say the same thing for Kentucky, say the same thing for Tennessee. At Mississippi State, it's not a no-brainer. They're going to go into Starkville and win. And then you get to the gauntlet. And no one in America's got a harder schedule in 2024 than when you finish consecutively with Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. That is preposterous. That is crazy. Oh, by the way, you throw in a game against UCF prior to that. It's a daunting schedule, man. So when you're on the hot seat and you got the hardest schedule in America, that is not a good combination. I'm interested this spring to see the dynamic of Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. Is there a competition there? I tend to doubt it. I think it's Mertz's job. I think it should be Mertz's job. But you know as well as I do, a couple of losses pile up. People are going to want to see Lagway in there sooner rather than later. Or is Lagway vying for the job this spring? Again, I don't believe that, but talking to people in Gainesville, there's a thought that it's an open competition. You got to replace Trevor Etienne, who just lambasted you last week on a podcast when asked why he transferred to Georgia. Etienne said, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially, why be one of a 2 running back system for a losing team when I can be running back 1 for a winning team? Yikes. Yikes. Brutal. But you know what? That's brutal honesty. He's right. You might not like to hear that, but he's right. You got to replace Etienne, who's now at Georgia. You got to replace Ricky Pearsall, who will be in the NFL. It's tough, man. It's tough. I know there's always hope this time of year. There's always reason for optimism for this time of year. But if you're a Gator fan, I mean, honestly, would you sign up for 6-6 right now in a bowl game? Would you sign on for 6-6 right now in a bowl game with that schedule? I think I might. Again, find me 6 wins on that schedule. It's hard to do. And if you say, well, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Tennessee, UCF, oh, really? They're going to go to Knoxville and win? Against a Tennessee team that's going to be pissed after what happened a year ago? For UCF, that's their Super Bowl coming to Gainesville in the regular season. A lot of answers, or a lot of questions to be answered, rather, in Gainesville, and that'll begin tomorrow when spring drills open. With that, Will Miles does a terrific job. readandreaction.com. He does the X's and O's. I love talking football, Gator football with Will Miles. He's also part of the Gators Breakdown podcast. and he is next. Let's talk Florida. Let's talk the beginning of spring football with Will Miles. Hacker After Dark on a Wednesday night. And as always, Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us.
In times of old, the world was full of wonder and magic. But times change.
Get your wonder and magic on 1010XL.
It's the 60th Bob Hayes Invitational Track Meet, March 14 through 16. Track events will be held at Hodges Stadium on the campus of UNF. Thursday, March 14, the annual Hall of Fame Gala at the Potter's House International. Friday, March 15, the first collegiate meet at 10 a.m. And the Coach Day Middle School Track Meet, 5 p.m. On Saturday, March 16, the annual Bob Hayes Invitational Track and Field Meet at 8:30 a.m. at Hodges Stadium. For information and tickets, visit bhitm22.org. Presented by the City of Jacksonville and Pepsi.
Hey, Jacksonville, I'm sure by now you've seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We are an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We are committed to customer service, reliability, and have unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. GFL, green for life.
Meet Cheryl. Hey. She's on vacation and lost in the moment. Unfortunately, so is her Chase debit card.
It's gotta be somewhere.
Maybe she lost it at salsa night.
These skirts should have pockets.
Or maybe she lost it at Pilates.
3 and 2 and...
But she's not worried. With the Chase mobile app, she can lock her card till it turns up. Tools that help protect. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
At Dr. Rooter, we understand plumbing issues can be a real inconvenience for your building or business, and we're here to help. We can handle all kinds of plumbing jobs, including broken pipes, clogged drains, line jetting, installing water heaters, and full repipes. Need a camera inspection or a smoke test? Yes, Duck Rooter does that too. Plus, our lift station services include inspections, monitoring, cleaning, and repairs. When you're stuck, call the Duck, 904-862-6769. That's 904-862-6769.
Attention golf enthusiasts. Get ready to swing into action at the Rolling Red Pro Golf Tour at Deer Creek Country Club April 10th to the 12th. It's a charity pro-am event benefiting the Wounded Warrior Project. Rub shoulders with real touring pros, explore the outdoor expo, and indulge in a banquet meal. Want to play alongside a future PGA Tour player? Sign up now at rollingredgolftour.com. Spectators welcome and sponsor packages available. That's rollingredgolftour.com.
Tim McGraw. In concert. The Standing Room Only Tour 2024. A night filled with your favorite songs. 5-Star Veterans Memorial, March 14th. With special guest Carly Pierce. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss Tim McGraw, live in Jacksonville.
Has someone you care about been arrested or had their driver's license taken away? I'm Susan Cohen, and I work with David Robbins at the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. We are experienced fighters for those charged with DUI, domestic violence, and all criminal offenses. In your battle with the justice system, there's only one thing you need to know. Dial David 24/7 at Epstein & Robbins, 354-5645. 354-5645.
The First Coast Games is an annual corporate challenge to introduce fun activities into the workplace and focus on your employees' health and wellness goals, with some friendly competition, of course. Registration is now open through the First Coast YMCA for both recreational and challenge divisions, including pickleball, cornhole, volleyball, flag football, and other team sports. The games will begin in March. Register your company and teams at fcymca.org.
Clearwater. John, I can't even mow my side yard. It's so soggy. Man, my builder sucks.
Brent, calm down. This is a common problem in neighborhoods where houses are built too close together. You need gutters and a properly installed French drain that will soak up subsurface water. We can completely dry it up.
So I can take my builder off my speed dial now, huh?
Yeah, we got you, buddy. Let that builder bitterness go.
Clearwater Irrigation and Drainage too.
Take charge of your well-being at Ackerman Cancer Center. Their new location at the World Golf Village off I-95 now provides screenings for prostate, bladder, and colorectal cancers. The leaders in proton therapy, that's AckermanCancerCenter.com.
Hey, this is David here with Royal Pest Services. Do you have that room in the house that is just too cold in the winter and just too hot in the summer? To learn about our pest-rated insulation, visit RoyalPestServices.com or call 886-2847.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. WJXL FM, Jacksonville Beach. It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. You know, we've been so caught up in franchise tags and combine workouts and free agency. You look at the calendar, and the Florida Gators begin spring practice. This week is when they're on the field. Miami's already underway. Florida State begins next week as spring ball is taking over the college football gridiron here in the month of March. With that, Will Miles, Read and Reaction. He's also part of the Gators Breakdown podcast. He's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Will, it's been a little while, man. How are you?
Not too bad. It's been an interesting offseason in Gainesville, that's for sure. So looking forward to seeing what happens out in the spring practice and see maybe what Billy Napier's got in store for 2024.
You and I haven't talked, I don't believe, since the season ended, and a lot has transpired certainly since then. The portal was good to the Gators in some aspects, was bad to the Gators in others. Trevor Etienne is a prime example of that. How do you believe Florida fared in the portal going in and out of spring football?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously losing ETN is a big deal, especially when you lose him to a rival. So from just an optics standpoint, it doesn't look very good. But you know, ETN struggled in certain areas. He was really bad in pass protection last year. I think the drop from ETN to Montrell Johnson is relatively small. ETN's definitely a better player, but it's not like Florida doesn't have anybody at that position. So that's something I think they can weather. I actually am excited about the guys they've got on the backside. So Asa Turner, the Washington transfer coming in, and then DJ Douglas, the Tulane transfer coming in at safety. Safety was a spot where, other than Jordan Castell, Florida was absolutely awful last year. And Castell now has an opportunity to take a step forward because he played so much as a true freshman. If they have three solid safeties back there, especially with the addition to the defensive staff, I think there's going to be an opportunity for the defense to be much, much, much better. And given that really the defense was the lion's share of the problem last year, I think Florida has an opportunity to be better, though obviously with the 2024 schedule, we'll see whether that shows up in the record or not.
Yeah, we'll get to the 2024 schedule here in just a little bit. Will, you mentioned all the changes on the field with the roster and also the coaching changes, adding coaches on special teams, bringing in new defensive staff, having to replace guys that left for the NFL. Your thoughts in totality about the staff now Napier has coming into year number 3?
Yeah, I think the coaches he has on staff are better than the ones that he had last year, and certainly better than the ones he had 2 years ago. The question I have, and this is where I think the leadership of Napier is going to have to either shine or where we're going to see gaps in his leadership, is he's now got guys who have overlapping responsibilities at a lot of different locations. So the special teams, they've still got Couch there on special teams. So now you've got 2 guys there. You've got the defensive coordinator with the head coach of the defense now with Ron Roberts coming in. And you even see that on the offensive line, having 2 offensive line coaches, and then Russ Callaway being given more responsibility in terms of offensive coordination, considering that you also have Rob Sale listed as the offensive coordinator. So to me, that's the challenge, is are they able to delineate who's responsible for what, who's ultimately going to be able to have final say on all of these things, and is Napier going to have the leadership to be able to manage all of those different things? Because the reality is, no matter how close you are to Billy Napier, when you start talking about high level football, egos get involved, and so that to me is the concern with the staff. Not necessarily that they are X's and O's wise, I think they'll be fine. I think from a recruiting perspective, they're not going to do worse than the previous staff. However, you start looking at who's responsible for what, and sort of, when the finger pointing starts when you hit a bad stretch, because they will hit a bad stretch. When they hit a bad stretch, are the fingers going to start to point, or does Napier have the leadership to make sure that everybody bunkers down and make sure that they come out looking better on the back end?
Will Miles, readandreaction.com. He's also a part of the Gators Breakdown podcast. He's with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Will, I want to save Billy Napier for the end. There's certainly some questions about him. But to the quarterback, Graham Mertz returns. DJ Lagway arrives. Your thoughts on that dynamic as we enter spring football?
Yeah, I think they're going to do everything they can to make sure that Mertz is comfortable as the starter. They aren't going to want to rush Lagway along. The issue is going to be if they have any losses to start with, there's going to be a groundswell to start DJ Lagway, just like there was in Dan Mullen's last year, where there was a groundswell to start Anthony Richardson, and his inability to do so, whether Richardson was ready or not, the fact that he was unwilling to do that in many ways, I think is one of the things that really turned some of the fan base against Dan Mullen when things started to go south. Now, Mertz is interesting because last year he was actually, if you look at Pro Football Focus's ratings, he was the second best quarterback in the SEC when he was under pressure, but he was dead last when he was clean. And I think that's the thing where you're going to have to see Mertz really improve, is that when he's given a clean pocket, when he's given an opportunity to step up and go downfield, he really needs to do that. The elite quarterbacks in the SEC all have PFF ratings up over 90 when they were clean last year. Mertz was at 70.8. So it's not actually the blitzing, the throwing the ball away, the stuff that's sort of like you see on the broadcast and wonder, why didn't he throw that away? Why did he throw that away? Oh, the offensive line gave him trouble, those sorts of things. His real issue last year was when the throw was there, when he had the pocket, he wasn't necessarily going down the field. If he's not able to do that, then I think it makes sense for Napier to make a change, because the reality is that, they're not going to be able to get away with average quarterback play, and Mertz, depending upon what metric you look at, was average or slightly above. Certainly, I don't think anybody's going to compare him to Jaden Daniels or Jackson Dart, and I don't necessarily see a big jump coming next year for Mertz. So it's really sort of that question of, you got a high floor with Mertz, but you got a high ceiling with Lagway. Do you harm that ceiling by bringing in Lagway early, or is he already ready to go? From everything I'm hearing, it's going to be an open battle. So it's not like something where Mertz is just being given the job. And if Lagway comes in and shows out, I think honestly the staff is going to be thrilled, because he's really sort of their gap, or he's the bridge to the next generation of recruits they're going to bring in, and really maybe the Pied Piper for the next couple of recruiting classes if he can really show out.
Well, the interesting thing too, with a situation like this, it's going to be Lagway's team 12 months from now. This is Mertz's last year. You would like to get Lagway some experience in these games. The problem is they're playing the toughest schedule in the country, and I don't know if it's a great idea to be throwing him out there in Austin, Texas, or against LSU, or against Georgia, or against Florida State, or just rattle down the schedule. This is a year you'd like a couple of those cupcakes to get Lagway on the field, and that's obviously not in the cards with this schedule.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to depend on the protection, and honestly, some of it's going to depend on Mertz and his health. He goes out last year with the broken collarbone. That was sort of a freak incident where he decided to put his head down and run. But there were a bunch of times where he got hit in the pocket, and you weren't quite sure whether he was going to come back in. If the offensive line is still struggling, and they're bringing in 2 new tackles, there's talk of moving Damian George, the transfer from Alabama, into guard this year. If those tackles struggle at all, you might not have a choice. You might end up with Lagway in there just because you end up with an injury. Hopefully not, but that's something that they certainly have to plan for. I think what we've seen with Billy Napier is he really hasn't used game experience to get these guys ready. You look at Max Brown last year, they had some opportunities early in the year when they played, the Charlottes of the world, and when they played some of those more, cupcakes where they were up by 2 or 3 touchdowns, where they didn't necessarily get those backups into the game. I think I don't know whether that'll be something that they change this year with Lagway. Now, there may be an opportunity. You mentioned the difficult schedule. Well, in some ways, if you happen to fall way behind, there's an advantage in getting Lagway in there and getting him some snaps too. Now, Florida fans may not be real happy about that. At the same time, you got to use the opportunities that you've got as they come around. And certainly, Lagway is a guy who runs the ball too. He is not a statue. He was a guy who ran the ball a lot in high school. And so, the idea of having a Tebow package, quote unquote, where you have a guy come in and he's running a set package of plays to get him some experience, give the defense a different look than they had with Graham Mertz. A lot of those 4th and 2, 4th and 3 plays they had last year where Mertz was just not a threat to run became a problem for Florida in terms of some of the misdirection they wanted to run. I think if Lagway's in there, they might have a better opportunity with those. So you might see like a package for Lagway to get his feet wet, but also to bring a different dimension to the offense.
Couple more for Will Miles, readandreaction.com. He's also part of the Gators Breakdown podcast. Let's get to Billy Napier now, Will. Obviously, there's hot seat talk surrounding him. Whether it's fair or not, that's the reality. He's in year 3. And with this schedule, look, I don't know if Vince Lombardi could manage the schedule that Florida has compared to the talent on the roster right now. I mean, it's almost the perfect storm for Napier, right? The team could obviously show some improvement, but it may not matter in the win-loss column.
Yeah, I think the thing you always have to factor in with head coaches is, are they giving you hope? That's always sort of, if you're not winning championships, do you have hope that you're going to be able to get to a championship? And that's why the defections at the end of the recruiting cycle this offseason were so detrimental to Napier's overall program aspirations. I think if he'd have had a top 3 or top 4 class, people would be a lot less sanguine about pulling the trigger on making a change. But when you're 11-14 at Florida, I mean, guys like Ron Zook had a lot better records than 11-14 and got run out of town. Will Muschamp too, and really everybody who's come ever since Steve Spurrier had better records than 11-14. So there were some opportunities last year to get above 500. There were some opportunities 2 years ago to get above 500, and Napier hasn't been able to make those opportunities happen on the field. And some of the operational stuff, I think, is the stuff that's really sort of the hope sapper, where, you look at the Utah game last year where just operationally things weren't very good. And you figured, okay, year 1, maybe it's going to take some time to clean that up. But by the time you get out to year 2, that stuff should be clean. If that continues, if the special teams continues to be a problem, if the perception is that the on-field product is not improving, I can see people being very, very critical, regardless of what the record is. But, there's some new quarterbacks in that schedule. I think when you look at it, and we see this every year, is we look at a schedule and we go, oh, that's going to be a gauntlet. And then you get to the end, you go, oh, that game wasn't quite as hard, or that game was much harder. Like last year, I don't think anybody would have had Missouri in the definite loss column until you sort of got to the end of the year and said, okay, that's a tough game. So there'll probably be a couple of things that shift there, and Florida has the talent to be able to compete. The question is going to be, can they put all of that together? Can they avoid injuries? And then obviously they're going to have to win games against Miami. They're going to have to win games against UCF. They can't have a slip up early on in the year and be able to maintain sort of what on the back end of that schedule is going to be very, very difficult.
Well, as we wrap up, spring football is starting. Gator basketball is winding down. But with the win over Alabama, 21 wins on the year now. They got 11 conference wins. They are an absolute shoo-in for the NCAA tournament. Tip of the cap to Todd Golden. There were questions about him as recently as, 2 months ago, and clearly Gator basketball turned the corner midway through the year and are having a very, very impressive season right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you look at the transfers that he's brought in. I mean, you got Pullen, you've got Walter Clayton, you got Tyrese Samuel. It's really a rebuilt roster from what it was last year. And that was always something where, Mike White sort of added around the edges, or when he brought in transfers, they didn't necessarily turn into the stars. And the guys that Golden has brought in not only have turned into stars, but they've developed over the year. And that's something that we haven't necessarily seen in Gainesville on the football field or on the basketball field for the last few years. And the standards for the basketball program are different than the standards for the football program. And this team, I think we can clearly see a path to it getting to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, or maybe even if they get a good draw and play really well, getting to the Final Four. You can't necessarily say that about the football program right now, but certainly excitement around the basketball program with all the transfers he's brought in. But he's got to do it again next year, right? I mean, that's the thing, is the way the transfer portal works, the way programs work at this point. Golden sort of gets a reprieve for this year, but the critics will be out again next year if he doesn't throw the transfers again, and that's sort of the nature of the business.
And that's a fair point. And the one thing I'll say about Todd Golden, too, is there were some lean years attendance-wise recently for Florida towards the end of the Mike White tenure, even last year a little bit with Golden. Basketball seems to matter at the University of Florida again. They've had number of sellouts down there in the O-Dome. People are excited about that product that's on the court.
Well, I mean, beyond that, just if you look at social media and people who are commenting on Gator basketball and really even at the national stage, right? Florida's going to be ranked after this win over Alabama. And when's the last time a Florida team was ranked this late in the season and really had a shot at making a run? And look, I mean, the NCAA tournament's weird. There are often times that folks lose in the first round. There are some really good teams Billy Donovan had that lost in the first round, and you sort of scratched your head at it. But putting yourself in that position year after year after year is the goal. And the issue with Mike White is honestly the same issue that we've had with some of the previous football coaches, where there just wasn't hope that there was a corner to turn. It was, hey, this is where we cap out, and hey, we'll make it to the NCAA tournament, but this team doesn't really have a shot of making a run. And, so I think people look at what Golden's done this year and say, this guy's going to be able to set Florida up to be able to make runs moving forward based on his evaluation of the recruits, based on his ability to bring in these transfers and his ability to be able to transition guys who transfer in to guys who perform on the court. And, that's not necessarily something that's been able to be done with the basketball program for the past decade at this point.
We'll tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about readandreaction.com.
Yeah, so our moniker is Be a Smarter Fan. We try to teach people about the program, teach people, we look into film, we look into stats, and try to tell you why stuff happened. So the reason it's called Read and Reaction is that we're reacting to what we're seeing and trying to sort of bring you along for the ride, hopefully teach you something along the way, and maybe bring some looks that you wouldn't see someplace else. So the thing I mentioned earlier about Mertz being really good against pressure, but not good clean, those are the sorts of things we're trying to sort of suss out. And then hopefully what we would show you is why on film that's happening, to give you a better idea of what to look for when you're seeing Mertz play in the spring and then coming up in the fall.
You get Will Miles, readandreaction.com. He's also a part of the Gators Breakdown podcast. A lot going on. The NCAA tournament right around the corner. The baseball team has obviously started off pretty strong. And, of course, spring football begins this week down at the University of Florida. Will, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for taking time out. We'll do it again closer to the spring game.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
1010XL takes you behind the microphone.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Mornings on 1010XL.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation. Light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to carlsondentalgroup.com. That's carlsondentalgroup.com for all of your dental needs.
Why live with foot or ankle pain? If you have persistent pain, numbness, tingling, burning pain on the bottom of your foot, or swelling that doesn't improve with home treatment, it may be time to see Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute. Our foot and ankle specialists have innovative new options to help you get back in the swing of things without persistent pain that slows you down. Call JOI 2000 or go to joionline.net for an appointment.
Hi, I'm Joe Kenny, the founder of Here Tomorrow. Thank you to the players for helping us on our mission to ensure that all community members in need can access mental health care and live full, meaningful lives. 6 days to go.
Hacker here, and I have a huge announcement. I've started Awaken 180 weight loss. That's right, yours truly is finally making the 180 I've needed to do for many years now. The combination of turning 40 and wanting to keep up with my 4-year-old son was a ton of motivation. What's more motivating? In just 1 week, I dropped 19 pounds. You heard me right, 19 pounds in just 1 week. Now, I do have to say, these results aren't the norm, but when you have the amount of weight I needed to drop, the results came quick. In just 1 week, I have more energy and I feel great. Mike and Matt were right. Awaken 180 is simple. I'm eating to lose weight and having fun in the process. Whether you've tried to lose weight 20 times or if this is your first time, with Awaken 180, it will be the last time. Fast. I mean fast results, and then you receive free support for life. Make the call. 844-346-1800. That's 844-346-1800 or online at awaken180weightloss.com.
Fish are good at hiding. Captain Kevin can help you find them.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Find more fish on the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show.
Thursday nights at 6.
Brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss on 1010XL AM.
Jeff Prosser here. Need that garage floor redone? Pool deck? Patio? Well, I did my homework and found out there is only one company offering a lifetime warranty, Jack's Concrete Coating. How do they do it? They are the certified Pintech dealer for North Florida, so they are the only company offering pure polyurea. Trust me, I can speak firsthand to their work, and it is awesome. Go to jacksconcretecoatings.com or call 904-862-2000.
Dave Binion here with my son Ammon, who is the air duct cleaning manager at Zero Res. So Ammon, you may notice a little rattle in my voice and some puffiness in my eyes. That's because allergy season is coming on. Can Zero Res help?
Yes, your health has a lot to do with the air you breathe. A clean and healthy home begins with clean air. At Zero Res, we can help clean the air in your home by cleaning your air ducts, cleaning the coils in your HVAC units, and fogging the system with a powerful antimicrobial that helps kill and control the growth of microorganisms in your air. We also have options for maintaining your clean air with our excellent inline air purifier and UV lights that will help keep your system clean and healthy. At Zero Res, we are more than just air duct cleaners. We're a clean air specialist.
Have Zero Res air duct specialists out, and right now we'll give you $50 off your air duct cleaning, and while we're at it, we'll give you $50 off your dryer vent cleaning. Zero Res.
Spelled forward or backwards, it's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res.
When is the best time to buy a Yamaha Wave Runner? Right now. Make a splash this summer on a new Wave Runner from Ride Now Power Sports. No matter how you like to ride, Ride Now Power Sports has the model to fit your style. And for a limited time, receive a 5-year extended warranty on select new Yamaha Wave Runner purchases. Maximum fun, now with maximum protection. Only at Ride Now Power Sports in Jacksonville, 6407 Landing Boulevard, or online at ridenowjacksonville.com.
It's Kubota Orange Days, your golden chance to score a deal that will make your neighbors green with envy. Shop the year's best selection of Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and utility vehicles, including the #1 selling compact tractor in the USA. And get the year's best deals, like 0% APR for 84 months, or up to $3,300 off L3302 tractors. Coastal Equipment on New Kings Road and in McClenny.
Coastal Equipment.
Exciting news from Leonard Truck Accessories in Jacksonville on Blanding Boulevard. Stocking brands like Real Truck, UWS, WeatherGuard, carry-on trailers, and more. The best deals with the best prices only at Leonard Truck Accessories on Blanding Boulevard. Leonard, your truck, your style.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
You know, when you invest 35 years of your life with a certain sports franchise, and they have been awful an overwhelming majority of your life, you're going to enjoy the good times maybe a little more than people that support winning franchises might. So here I am, living and dying with every shot the Orlando Magic are making against the 9-52 Washington Wizards tonight. Washington was up 16. Orlando was without 3 guys and is the second night of a back-to-back. And Orlando has come roaring back to win the game. Casey, I love the Orlando Magic. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, baby, me too.
My uncle took me to a game in 1989, and I've been cursed for life as a Magic fan. They're 36-26 right now with a win tonight, and they're going to win. They're about to be 37-26. Do you realize this is the first time since the 2012 season that they've been 10 games above 500 or better in a regular season?
What's that saying you always say? You're talking dirty to me, and I kind of like it.
It's been 12 years since the Magic have been 10 games above 500. And I've watched every one of them. It's a curse from the age of 6 years old. I just got enamored with the Orlando Arena and with Dennis Scott and Nick Anderson and Scott Skiles and Anthony Bowie And then onward to Shaq and Penny, and onward to Dwight Howard and Daryl Armstrong and Tracy McGrady and Rashard Lewis and Turkaloo. And now with this group with Paolo and Franz and Wendell Carter, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony. Oh, it's beautiful. But, man, when you have a franchise that plays 82 games and you know some nights are not going to be their night, it can be tough, man. And, Dobson, I know you're a diehard Brave fan. You got 162 of those.
Yeah, baby. It's it can be rough, too. You sit there at the beginning of the season, man, especially it's so funny, like, because it's relatable, my fandom with Prosser. And, man, turning on the drill, and, dude, he'll be, man, what are we doing? And it's like game 5. And it's like him and I are pretty much on that same ledge where it's like, dude, we're going to jump if Acuna doesn't, get his batting average up over his weight. And then all of a sudden, you find that sweet spot. But it's that postseason, man, that postseason. Get to that, especially like Orlando and Jacksonville are really, you can compare a little bit to the lull that the cities have experienced.
Oh, I think
their
there's a
fan
big
base,
comparison. Yeah, big comparison.
And just growing up right there in old Stark, man, and growing up watching Shaq and Penny and Nick Anderson. And I'll never forget when I was in church, we went to a choir tour, and we went down to a church down in Orlando. And we stayed with a family, and the guy there designed Penny Hardaway's truck. We thought that guy, just because he knew Penny, was like the second coming.
Yeah.
We were just so enthralled with him, man. We never got to meet Penny, though. So, Penny, if you're listening, 9117 Hogan Road, you got 2 fans.
Oh, I'm sure we're big in the Memphis, Tennessee area, no question about that. We'll continue the NBA talk. Brian Toporek, Bleacher Report, and Forbes. By the way, Orlando is in the win column. They are now 11 games above 500. The Orlando Magic sit as the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference right now. Absolutely awesome. Let's talk NBA with Brian Toporek, Bleacher Report, and Forbes. He's next. Hacker After Dark on a Wednesday here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Our colors are teal and black.
It is. Jags on 3, baby. 1, 2, 3, Jags!
No one covers the Jaguars like 1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
A new vehicle. Come to Key Buick GMC, where we never have markups on our vehicles. In addition, Key Buick GMC is the only Buick GMC dealer with a lifetime powertrain warranty on all new Buicks and GMCs. It's a new year. Time to do some service checkups. Key has oil changes specials on most vehicles, plus a tire match guarantee. Please check out our service specials at our website. Go to KeyBuickGMC.com. We're always professional grade on the corner of Southside and Gate. Key Buick. GMC.com.
Need cash? Beaches Jewelry and Pawn has cash available. Ready to buy guitars, surfboards, jewelry, firearms, tools, and especially gold. They need it all. Selling or pawning, get cash on the spot at Beaches Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach.
Wintertime at the Blue Crab Crab House. You know what that means. Time for oysters. Buy them by the tray, broiled, half shell with Romano cheese, wine topping, or fried. And of course, each and every Wednesday, $1 oysters at the Blue Crab Crab House. Serving Northeast Florida since 1996. Make reservations by calling 260-CRAB. Jacksonville's best, the Blue Crab Crab House, off of San Jose on Jewington Creek Road.
Bueller Air Conditioning presents Are You Cool?
Today's lucky contestant, a coffee filter repairman from Jacksonville Beach. Meet Dave Carvelas.
Great to be here, Pat.
No time for chit-chat, Dave. Here's your question. Your AC has been acting up. Do you A, ignore it and hope it gets better on its own? 2, take off all your clothes when you watch TV and hope that does the trick? Or C, call Bueller Air Conditioning?
Oh, jeez. I do like to sit around with no pants on.
5 seconds, Dave.
I'll say C. Call Bueller.
That's right, Dave. A quick call to Bueller will have our expert AC technicians at your door, usually the same day, to make sure that you are cool.
Can I still watch the game with no pants on?
It's America, Dave. Knock yourself out.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Tim McGraw in concert.
I went
The Standing Room Only Tour 2024. A night filled with your favorite songs. 5-Star Veterans Memorial, March 14th. With special guest Carly Pierce. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss Tim McGraw, live in Jacksonville.
Any action?
Find more fish on the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show.
That's a big redfish, guys.
With Captain Kevin Faber.
Oh my gosh.
Brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
Hi, Jags fans. Walker Little here for my friends at Kingfish Pest Control. Playing offensive line in the NFL, I must block and protect on every down. When it comes to keeping my home pest-free, I expect that same level of protection. So I contacted Kingfish after seeing thousands of positive online customer reviews about their service. I can confirm from personal experience, bugs don't stand a chance getting past Kingfish Pest Control. Do what I did. Reach out to Kingfish Pest Control to protect your home, a proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
Clearwater.
John, I can't even mow my side yard. It's so soggy. Man, my builder sucks.
Brent, calm down. This is a common problem in neighborhoods where houses are built too close together. You need gutters and a properly installed French drain that will soak up subsurface water. We can completely dry it up.
So I can take my builder off my speed dial now, huh?
Yeah, we got you, buddy. Let that builder bitterness go.
Clearwater irrigation and drainage too.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. For lost or broken keys or nearly any make and model of vehicle, call 722-1111 for Instant Keys locksmith service.
Hey sports fans, this is Hayes Carlyon for QC Kinetics. This is the time of year to enjoy life. Stop letting that pain in your joints keep you from doing what you love to do this spring. Call QC Kinetics now, set up a free consultation. Call them at 904-274-5522. They've got 2 great locations, Mandarin and Ponte Vedra Beach. Go see them. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. I'm talking lasting joint pain relief with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. It's a fact. QC Kinetics is literally transforming lives. Their advanced treatments harness your own body's ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Pro athletes have been doing this for decades, but now this life-changing treatment is available for you. So you can walk and run and climb stairs and play golf and move again pain-free. 904-274-5522. That's QC Kinetics. Call them today.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The beginning of March Madness in the world of college basketball, but it's kind of March Madness, honestly, in the NBA Eastern Conference. There are a number of teams. You got about 5 or 6 teams that are separated by about 2 to 3 games right now in the Eastern Conference, and really it looks like it might be Boston and everybody else in the East. Orlando is certainly in that mix. Miami is also in that mix as well. Let's talk about all of it with my buddy Brian Toporek. He covers the NBA for both Bleacher Report and Forbes, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, as always.
Hey, Brian, always appreciate the time. All right, the last time you and I talked about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Orlando was good, right? They were hanging around. They were in the 8 spot or the 9 spot. But man alive, going into the All-Star break and coming out of the All-Star break, dare I say, Brian, they're one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now?
Yeah, I mean, 8-2 in their last 10. They've jumped up to the number 6 seed in the East, although right now there is not much separation between 4 and 8, as I'm sure you and your listeners know. So it's set up to be quite an interesting, final month, 5-6 weeks of the regular season.
Brian, we know about Paolo, and we know how good Banchero is, right? Franz Wagner, too. But, man, from Jalen Suggs to Wendell Carter to Cole Anthony, Jonathan Isaac, boy, the contributing cast, the supporting cast, I guess, around Wagner and around Banchero, they're really coming of age right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Suggs has probably been the biggest pleasant surprise of the season because the defense was there from the start, but he was just so behind the eight ball offensively. And now, shooting almost above 39% from three when, as a rookie, he shot 21.4% from deep. Last year it was 32.7. So the big hope for him was if the shot came around at some point, he could be a high-level two-way point guard. And if not, each one of Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, and him had some flaws that made you wonder whether any of these guys could become, franchise point guard might be a stretch, but a high-level, long-time point guard that can pair with Paolo and Franz. And now you're starting to see that with Suggs. So that's been awesome. I mean, Cole Anthony has really carved out a lane off the bench. Wendell Carter Jr. is one of the most underrated centers in the NBA, I would argue. Yeah, I mean, it's a well-built roster up and down. You've got the two stars in Paolo and Franz, but then a strong supporting cast that I think is going to be a real asset both in this stretch run of the regular season and the playoffs.
We talk so much about the players, and we'll get back to them in a moment, but Brian, this is almost a college team. I mean, every one of these guys, with the exception of Gary Harris and Joe Ingles, is 26 years old or younger. So how much credit needs to be given to Jamal Mosley and that coaching staff for doing what they're doing right now?
Yeah, I think a ton for the exact reason you laid out. It's rare to see young teams win at a high level in the NBA. And we're seeing it with, a lot of these guys are either still on their rookie deals or have just gotten off of their rookie deals or about to start, their new extensions. But yeah, continuing to build on what they've done without adding a high level free agent, with all due respect to Joe Ingles, has been really impressive. And it's a testament to the long-term vision that both the front office and the coaching staff had, that they don't need to make this big splash, or now they're in the position where, okay, now we maybe can make some upgrades because we are starting to get a better sense of what we have here and what we still need.
Brian DePort, Bleacher Report, and Forbes covering the NBA with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. We mentioned Joe Ingles, Gary Harris. They're really the only guys with playoff experience. I guess Jonathan Isaac a little bit, Markelle Fultz a little bit, but I wouldn't even necessarily count that from his time in Philly. I mean, is that something we in the media talk about, or is that going to be an issue for Orlando, the lack of playoff experience?
No, I mean, I think NBA history has shown that it's rare for young teams to go on deep playoff runs. You typically do need guys with playoff experience to, kind of walk you through how the game changes in the playoffs. It tends to slow down a bit. It tends to be more physical. You're not going to get as many calls as you might during the regular season. You have to value every possession more. So shot selection is more important. The tiny details, even being able to match up with the same opponent game after game and having to really know the scouting report for each of your players, that all of these things are differences from the regular season. So I think that is something to keep an eye on with a young team like Orlando, or I think the Indiana Pacers are another example of this. Out west, Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be the big, that is the big knock against them as well. But I think the more important thing for any playoffs is just how you match up individually with each opponent. And I think, given some of the injury situations, particularly in the East right now, the real concern for Orlando is who do we get in round one? And frankly, I think every team is just going to be trying to avoid the Boston Celtics. And after that, we'll see how the chips fall.
Yeah, the crazy thing is Orlando's normally the team that's banged up. All of a sudden now, 20 games to go in the season, they're one of the healthier teams in the Eastern Conference, like you said, sitting in the 6th spot right now. Last thought on Orlando before we branch out, and maybe this is just me overthinking this, but Paolo Banchero last night was interviewed after the game. He had 29 points in the win over Detroit, and they were talking about the 3-game road trip. And he rattled it off. He's like, yeah, we got Charlotte, they're giving teams battles. The Wizards are very good. And, of course, the Knicks on Friday. and maybe I'm not giving the athlete today too much credit, but for a 21-year-old, I'm sure his head's spinning but in the middle of a television interview to give the exact order of the next 3 games on the road. I don't know, Brian. I saw that and I was like, wow, that's a guy that gets it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable response to that type of thing, because I think a lot of guys are so focused on each individual game that they probably aren't paying a ton of attention of what's coming next. So for Paolo to be able to do that at least suggests that he really cares and he is focused. Like, his entire attention is devoted to playing basketball and the Magic and who they're playing that night, but also who they're playing moving forward and how other teams are faring across the league. I respect him for trying to be diplomatic about teams like the Hornets and the Wizards. I think a 9-51 Wizards team, it's safe to say they are not very good, but kudos to him for not trying to downplay, because that is the other trap that especially young teams fall into, is even though a team like the Wizards is 9-51, they have a couple of very good players on that team and can beat any team on any given night. So it's good to have a healthy level of respect for all of your upcoming opponents, even if some of them you are going to be, I think they were like double-digit favorites against the Pistons last night. I think they'll probably be close to that, if not double-digit favorites against both Charlotte and Washington as well.
You look at the Eastern Conference, and we'll get to Boston in a moment, but Cleveland, Milwaukee, they've kind of separated themselves a little bit from the pack, although Cleveland is something only like 4 games ahead of the congestion there in 4 through 8, so they need to watch themselves a little bit. But then New York, Philadelphia, Orlando, Indiana, Miami. I mean, make sense of that, because those 5 teams right now, Brian, I believe are separated by like 2.5 games.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Jalen Brunson of the Knicks went down last night in the first minute of the game against Cleveland with a non-contact injury. Certainly did not look good. We haven't gotten a diagnosis today, and we can only hope the best for him. But, based on how it looked, I personally can't imagine him playing basketball anytime soon. Hopefully he's back at some point this season. But if not, that changes the complexion not only of this race, but of how we perceive the Knicks going into the playoffs. Because you could have argued, before the Julius Randle injury, before the OG Anunoby injury, and before Brunson's injury, they looked like they could have been the second best team in the East and the biggest threat to the Boston Celtics in the East. And if Jalen Brunson, knock on wood, he will be back by the playoffs. But if he is not, I hate to say it, but I think the Knicks are probably flying dead stick here. I just cannot see them pulling off an upset without their all-star point guard. So there's that uncertainty. We have Philly with Joel Embiid has been out with a meniscus tear since late January. Sounds like he is due for a reevaluation this week. So, he met with reporters, I believe, last week, said he's still hoping to return. Doesn't really matter where the Sixers are in the standings. If he's healthy enough to return, he wants to. He was playing at an MVP caliber level before he went down. Was the front runner for MVP as of a month ago. So if the Sixers get him back, that suddenly changes the complexion of both this race and how you have to look at them going into the playoffs. Miami is doing their typical Miami thing where, they had a bunch of injuries early on, but now Jimmy Butler is locking in and we're starting to see playoff Jimmy again. So they are once again a team that no one will want to draw in the first round. Indiana has been scuffling as of late. I don't want to say it, but I think, Tyrese Halliburton had a hamstring injury that he came back probably earlier. I mean, he's admitted he came back earlier than he otherwise would have because of the new collective bargaining agreement. Makes you play at least 65 games. He's got $40 million on the line. So it makes sense that he is, he wants to be back for that, but he has just not been the all-star caliber point guard that he was prior to the injury. So, I'm hoping that we can see the all-star version of Tyrese Halliburton at some point before the playoffs begin. But if not, the Pacers, I think, are probably toward the back of that pack as well. So, a lot of question marks here. And again, it's just going to come down to, which teams fall into which seeds and how you match up against whichever opponent you draw in the first round. But again, I think the big thing that all these teams are focused on is a 5-team group for 3 guaranteed playoff spots. The other 2 will be in the play-in tournament, and whichever team loses that game faces a winner-go-home game against the 9 or 10 seeds, which will be some combination of the Bulls, Hawks, Brooklyn Nets, maybe Toronto Raptors. But whoever wins that has to play Boston in the first round, and that is going to be a brutal draw. So I think all of these teams, their biggest priority is avoiding that 8th seed.
Final moments, Brian Toporek, Bleacher Report, and Forbes talking the NBA. Brian, when it comes to the Eastern Conference, I can give you the field or I can give you the Celtics in the playoffs. Who are you taking?
Oof. It's tough. I mean, the Celtics look head and shoulders better than everyone else right now. They just dismantled the Golden State Warriors yesterday. So you'd be tempted to pick them. I mean, they are playing at an incredible level, and I said this on Twitter yesterday. It's honestly unfortunate that they're playing at such a high level because, nothing matters unless they win the title this year. We can look back at the 73-win Warriors. They set the regular season record for wins, and, they're a punchline because of how their season ended. So I think Boston is in a similar boat. I think they are the best team in the East. They deserve to be favored. So I would lean them, but I've also seen the NBA for enough years to know that weird things happen in the playoffs, and it all comes down to matchups. So, if they got, God forbid, they get Philly with Joel Embiid in the first round of the playoffs, or they get Miami and Jimmy Butler in the first round of the playoffs, and then they have to go through, maybe the Knicks come back fully healthy if they go through them as well. There's a lot of opportunity for them to fall short, but all that said, I'd be inclined to pick them today, especially without knowing if Brunson's going to be back by the playoffs, if Embiid's going to be back by the playoffs. I like how they match up against every other team in the East.
Brian, as we wrap up, let's head out west. And look, I got a buddy that's a diehard Minnesota Timberwolves fan. Believe it or not, they do exist in Jacksonville, Florida, and he loves the Timberwolves. And we were talking yesterday. Imagine being a Minnesota fan or an Oklahoma City fan, and you work so hard to get the 1 or 2 seed in the West, right? You battle, you scratch, you claw for 82 games, and your reward in round 1 very likely may be the Los Angeles Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, or the Phoenix Suns. I mean, the West is going to be insane, correct?
Yeah, add Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks to that mix as well, because I believe they're the 8th seed right now. So, yeah, the West play-in tournament is going to be a ratings bonanza. But, yeah, this, again, goes down to which seeds each of the teams are and how they individually match up, because you're absolutely right. As much as, OKC and Minnesota especially, they've got a healthy lead over those teams, but you could easily see a first-round upset brewing for either one of them. So I'm fascinated to see how this final month goes, especially once we get into those final few games and as seeds start to get locked in, especially up top. It'll be really interesting to see, if we see any sort of seeding chicanery where teams are trying to avoid certain matchups or tank their way into certain matchups. It should set up a fun final month here.
Brian Toporek, Bleacher Report, and Forbes. Brian, final question. We won't hold you to it. We'll obviously have you back on prior to playoff time. But right now, beginning of March, give me an Eastern Conference Finals, give me a Western Conference Finals.
Ooh, okay. Eastern Conference, Boston for sure. Milwaukee has been playing better as of late. They're another one with a big health question with Chris Middleton. He's been out with an ankle for a while. It does not sound like he's particularly close to returning either, although they have said that he would be playing if this was the playoffs. So, given the uncertainty with the Knicks and the Sixers health-wise, I lean Milwaukee as the opponent there, but I'm very open. Would not shock me if, Miami, just based on what we've seen over the last couple of years. So maybe that would be the actual answer. West, Denver for sure. And then again, it just, if OKC and Denver face in the second round, this could change. But I lean toward I'm believing in OKC. I'm really starting to buy them as a legitimate championship contender this year. And I think they're getting somewhat overlooked because of their youth. So I would lean Denver OKC, assuming they stay on opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah, OKC came into Orlando and gave us the beating a couple of weeks ago, so I'm definitely a believer in them as well. Brian Toporek, Bleacher Report and Forbes. He's one of our NBA guys here on Hacker After Dark, and we always appreciate him taking time out for us. Brian, thank you. We'll do it again prior to playoff time, and we'll see not only where Orlando and Miami, but how the rest of the league shakes out heading into the postseason. Appreciate you, my friend.
That sounds good. Anytime.
And thank you to Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes for joining us here on Hacker After Dark. As, the NBA really heating up, man. We are less than 20 games away for some teams until the end of the regular season. And one of the hottest teams in the NBA is my Orlando Magic. They are playing really good basketball as of late. As of earlier today, they were the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. They were ahead of both New York and Philadelphia. But again, all those teams are bunched right there. You got New York, Philly, Orlando, Indiana, and Miami. Those 5 teams are basically separated by like 2.5 games in the East for 4 through 8. So there's going to be a lot to go on, a lot to figure out. But Orlando clearly is playing some of the best basketball out of that group right now, and we'll see what happens. This is the first time that Orlando, when they won against Charlotte, they were 10 games over 500. They haven't been 10 games over 500 at any point in the season since 2012. Think about that for a second. Haven't been 10 games over 500 since 2012, and they accomplished that when they beat Charlotte last night. We'll see if they can keep it going. They got a couple of big ones coming up Friday night in Madison Square Garden against the New York Knicks, and on Sunday against the Indiana Pacers. Well, that'll just about do it. What has been a very busy Wednesday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. And really, the next couple of weeks are going to be insanely busy. Next week, not only is it free agency, not only is it the players, oh, by the way, but it's also conference tournament play, which is just nuts to think about. So we're going to have a ton of stuff to get into next week. And the following week, well, it's a little thing called March Madness and the NCAA tournament. So I talk about March being a terrific time of year for sports. And man alive, the next 2 to 3 weeks are absolutely spectacular. And we certainly appreciate you hanging out here nightly with us. Again, thanking Brian Toporek tonight, Bleacher Report and Forbes for stopping by. Thank you to Will Miles, readandreaction.com. He's also part of the Gators Breakdown podcast. For all the things that I mentioned that are going on in the world of sports, spring football going on. It begins tomorrow down in Gainesville, year number 3, at least in the spring, for Billy Napier and that Gator coaching staff. And we'll see what happens. A lot of changes to the roster, a lot of changes certainly to the staff, not a lot of expectations for the Gators coming into the year. Most of the over-under win-loss totals you see are in the 5.5 to 6 range with that brutal schedule they have lying ahead of them. But they will begin spring drills tomorrow. Certainly one of the more interesting dynamics will be the quarterback with the returner Graham Mertz and the arrival of 5-star quarterback DJ Lagway. And back in hour number 1, my buddy Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union talking Jaguars, talking the franchise tag with Josh Allen, what that means for Calvin Ridley beginning next week in free agency, and, of course, the cuts that the Jaguars have made on the defensive side of the ball in Foley Fatukasi, Darius Williams, and Rayshawn Jenkins. So we certainly appreciate Demetrius hanging out with us here on Hacker After Dark. We'll be back tomorrow night on a Thursday, and we will do it all over again beginning at 8 o'clock. Casey Dobson was your producer tonight in for Dylan Denmark. Casey, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark, on 1010XL, and on 92.5 FM. And as always, we certainly certainly appreciate it. So for all of us here on HAD, have an absolutely terrific remainder of your Wednesday evening, and we will do it all over again tomorrow night on a Thursday, beginning at 8 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.
Great golf.
It's my favorite week of the year.
Track your favorite golfers and get live Southeast Orthopedic Specialist leaderboard updates from the players.
Brought to you by
Monahan Jewelers, Coastal Equipment, and Roundtree Sod.
Doc Rooter is a full-service plumbing company that's locally owned and operated.